You imagine you're using visualization when in reality, you're just dwelling in the same old state. You close your eyes, think of a beautiful scene, feel a fleeting warmth, and minutes later, you're back to the old internal dialogue of doubt, fear, and scarcity. Then you complain that nothing changes. Listen carefully to what I'm about to tell you. It's not the image itself that bends reality. It's the state you assume while holding it alive. Reality doesn't obey idle wishes. It doesn't obey momentary emotional whims. It doesn't obey desperate pleas. It responds with relentless precision to the inner state you assume as your identity. This is why many people visualize every day and remain stuck in the same spot. They haven't realized they're visualizing from the same feeling of lack. When you understand this, the first adjustment happens. You stop seeing visualization as a fantasy to escape life and start using it as a decision of identity. Instead of looking at the desired scene as something distant, unattainable, you place it before you as a mirror of who you already are inside. You don't imagine one day I will have, you imagine, it's obvious this is part of my life now. It seems like a detail, but it's a revolution. Whoever imagines as a beggar reinforces the distance. Whoever imagines as an owner reduces the distance to zero. Every time you close your eyes to visualize, observe where you're coming from. Are you coming from lack, urgency, fear of loss? Or are you coming from the quiet certainty of someone who already knows they are in the right place, with the right thing, living the scene as familiar? Stop treating visualization as a magical ritual to fix problems and start treating it as deliberate identity training. Imagine someone who mentally sees themselves entering a place where they don't feel worthy every day. They enter shrinking, apologizing, gauging others' reactions, trying to guess if they'll be rejected. This person might even imagine themselves with money, better relationships, open doors. But as long as the state is that of an intruder, reality will give them circumstances that confirm this role. Now see another scene. Someone who, when closing their eyes, doesn't force attributes, doesn't feign confidence, but simply allows themselves to inhabit, for a few moments, the naturalness of already being welcome, already being valued, already being at home in any environment. Do you notice the difference? The same outcome image can be sustained by completely opposite states. If you want to understand even more clearly, look at your own routine. You say you want prosperity, but every time you think about money, you shrink your body, hold your breath, feel guilt or shame. You say you want a different relationship, but every time you think about being loved, you remember past rejections, compare yourself to others, feed scenes of abandonment. Then you sit down to visualize and try to put a bright image over that heavy state. This doesn't work. Visualizing isn't putting makeup on a tense face. It's relaxing the face until the expression truly changes. As long as you try to paint over the feeling of unworthiness, you will continue to project situations that confirm that unworthiness. When, however, you consciously choose the feeling of being welcome, of being chosen, of being capable, even for a few minutes, the body obeys, the breath changes, the mind slows down. That's where visualization begins, not before. As soon as you visualize from the assumed identity, reality begins to reorganize around you. Not because the image itself is powerful, but because the way you feel about it alters the posture with which you walk, speak, choose, and react. When you visualize as an owner, you lose the blinding shine of desire and gain the tranquility of someone who has already arrived. You stop checking for signs. You stop measuring each day like a thermometer of failure or success. You stop depending on proof and become the proof. From that moment on, visualization ceases to be an escape from life and becomes a silent pact with your new identity. This is the first change you need to make. Exchange begging visualization for calm possession visualization. When this first change settles in, another truth becomes unavoidable. You need to stop using the world as a judge of what is possible and start using it as a mirror of what you have been sustaining inside. You look at your bank account, at what others say, at the scenario around you, and treat it all as the final verdict. Then, you try to visualize something different while feeling guilty, small, and defeated. And you don't realize you're turning every fact into a sentence, instead of seeing it as a consequence. Life is never issuing sentences about you, it's just displaying the results of the state you've been accepting. Instead of looking at what is and saying, it's decided, you should look and say, this is just the trace of what I am ceasing to be. Start reading life symbolically. A delay is not a punishment, it's a mirror of your impatience. A refusal is not a stamp of incapacity. It's a reflection of the internal story of rejection you have been feeding. A low balance on the bank screen is not an identity. It's a momentary portrait of how you've been positioning yourself before the idea of abundance. When you change the way you read events, you stop reacting with desperation and start reacting with lucidity. Instead of asking, why is this happening to me? You start asking, what state of mind is this reflecting? From this question, visualization gains another function. It ceases to be a plea for the world to stop hurting you and becomes a firm decision to change the state that is creating these reflections. Before we move on, I want you to understand something. Hearing these words without transforming them into daily practice is just more mental entertainment. If you feel you're ready to go beyond theory and turn this way of visualizing into a concrete habit, use the material in the pinned comment. There you'll find guided instructions and practical exercises to train precisely this shift in state, to move away from weak need-based visualization and enter firm identity-based visualization. It's not an invitation to accumulate more information. It's an invitation to practice, to sit in silence, follow the script, adjust your internal focus, and day after day, habituate your consciousness to respond as someone who already lives the reality you want to experience. After exploring this material seriously, you won't be able to visualize in the same superficial way as before. Moving forward, it's necessary for you to understand that the way you visualize needs to become as natural as the habit of remembering your past. Notice how you talk about situations you've lived through. You recall details, smell the scents, hear the voices, relive sensations in your body. You don't struggle to believe, you simply remember. This is how you should learn to treat the desired scene, as a past that your consciousness has already traversed, even if it hasn't yet projected onto the external timeline. When you visualize this way, there's no tension, no urgency, no desire to speed up the process. There's a quiet recognition of something that for you is as familiar as yesterday's memory. To do this, you need to create an internal environment that favors depth. It's no use trying to visualize with your entire body tense, your face glued to your phone screen, your thoughts fragmented into 10 worries at the same time. Choose moments when you can be with yourself, even if it's just a few minutes. Sit or lie down with intention, not by chance. Breathe a few times until you feel your body release the day's weight. Only then bring the scene. Don't come to visualization with the same haste you use to reply to messages. You're not pushing buttons in the invisible. You're educating your internal field. The more respect you give to this moment, the more it permeates your system as something serious, definitive, worthy of being taken into account by your mind. When you transform visualization into anticipated memory, your body won't know the difference. It will respond to the image with the same chemistry, with the same sensation patterns as if it had already happened. This is where many people fail. They create cold, distant images as if watching a movie in another galaxy. You, however, do not. You see yourself within the scene, hearing your own voice, touching objects, feeling the weight of things in your hands, noticing the small imperfections that make everything more real. You visualize details that only someone who is already there would notice. The way you breathe, the way you sit, the way you silently thank as you close a door behind you. When visualization becomes concrete on this level, the inner state changes, and reality has no choice but to follow. But it's not enough to just enrich the scene. You need to abandon the habit of using visualization to check if it's already worked. This is the hidden poison in the process for many. They imagine once, open their eyes, and immediately rush to observe the world. Has it changed yet? Did someone call me? Did the money come in? Did the message arrive? This impulse is a confession that deep down, nothing has changed. You don't visualize to run tests. You visualize to seal an inner decision. When you decide that this is your state, The imaginary scene ceases to be an experiment and becomes a silent decree. From then on, each repetition of visualization is simply a serene reaffirmation, not an anxious request. Also notice that you don't need long sessions to compensate for a lack of conviction. 1 minute of visualization with an aligned state is worth more than an hour of distracted fantasy. You decide who you are. Close your eyes for a few moments and inhabit that identity with such clarity that when you get up, you carry traces of that state in your gaze, your posture, your way of walking. At this point, reality begins to reorganize itself. People who no longer match this state drift away, coherent opportunities emerge, new thoughts and ideas spontaneously appear in your mind. It's not magic, it's coherence. Life needs to rewrite itself to keep up with the identity you've committed to sustaining. Understand that discipline is not cold rigidity. It is kindness towards the state you have chosen. You don't abandon someone you love just because the day was difficult. Similarly, you don't abandon the chosen state just because circumstances screamed the opposite. You wake up and for a few moments, consciously remember who you've decided to be. Before sleeping, return your mind to the same decision. Throughout the day, when you notice you've slipped back into the old character, don't scold yourself, don't accuse yourself. Just return. Returning is the true power. It's not never falling, it's not staying fallen. Each return to the chosen state strengthens the new path within you, like someone who, daily, treads the same path until they forge a new passage through the woods. One day, without realizing it, you'll notice you spontaneously think from the new state and no longer from the old. There's another aspect you need to accept. If you want reality to truly obey your visualization, you must stop negotiating with the old state. This means it's useless to visualize yourself as prosperous, and then immediately afterward, sustain internal dialogues of scarcity, indignation, or victimhood for hours. Visualization didn't come to be a patch on your day. It came to guide all decisions, big and small. If you mentally see yourself as someone who has resolved a financial situation, then every choice you make, from how you talk about money to how you respond to unforeseen events, needs to be coherent with that resolution. Otherwise, you return without realizing it to the starting point. See your life as a play in which you are simultaneously the author, director, and lead actor. When you visualize, you are rewriting the script. When you think during the day, you are directing the scenes. When you act, you are playing the role. If you create a script of greatness in visualization, but direct the day with thoughts of defeat and act with gestures of fear, the play that goes on stage will be a sad and incoherent mess. But when you choose an inner role and no longer negotiate with old states, the direction becomes simpler. You adjust dialogues, cut habits, change environments, end cycles that no longer fit. From that point on, your visualization is no longer an occasional fantasy. It is the master plan for everything you allow to happen. If you want to see this more clearly, observe how you react to small situations. Someone delays a payment, and you immediately assume the role of the wronged party who is never respected. A message isn't answered, and you interpret it as proof that you're not important. A plan changes at the last minute, and you turn it into confirmation that life is always unstable. See? It's not the facts that crush you, it's the character you choose to play in front of them. When your inner role changes, the same situation takes on a different meaning. The delay becomes an opportunity to calmly reorganize something. The silence becomes space to return to yourself, instead of begging for attention. The change of plan becomes flexibility, not chaos. This new interpretation, repeated, alters the state, and a different state cannot continue to generate the same scenes. Another essential point is to understand that visualization is not an effort to manipulate specific people or circumstances. It is a realignment of your internal field. Instead of trying to control every external detail, focus on a single question. What kind of person naturally lives the reality I desire? Instead of clinging to particular names, faces, and scenarios, visualize yourself living the final state, at peace, confident, accomplishing what you need, surrounded by the right conditions. When you let go of the impulse to control the how and the who, reality gains space to surprise you with paths your linear mind would never have imagined. If you insist on visualizing overly rigid details laden with anxiety, you turn the process into a prison. You don't want to create a mental cell, you want to create a field. The field is your state. Prosperous, loved, secure, capable, inspired. Within this field, different scenes can form. Different people can enter and leave. Different opportunities can arise. Life becomes lighter because you stop worrying about the exact form and start cultivating only the coherence of the state. This is freedom. When you visualize this way, you are not asking the world to follow your meticulous script. You are deciding what frequency you live on, and reality responds with equivalence in the form of situations, encounters, and coincidences that seem like miracles but are just effects. We've reached a point where you need to make a simple and definitive choice. Either you continue to see visualization as an occasional exercise to calm fear, or you embrace it as the tool by which you educate your inner identity every day. As long as you treat your state as something that varies according to mood, news, or others' opinions, your life will continue to be a leaf in the wind. But from the moment you decide that the state comes first and facts follow, you stop living on the surface. Wherever you go, you carry with you a silent decision. This is how I exist inside, and the world will have to adapt. You don't need to shout it, you don't need to explain it to anyone. You don't need to justify the changes you start making. It's a pact between you and your own consciousness. You close your eyes. Visualize the final scene concretely, simply and familiarly. Inhabit that reality in your imagination naturally. And when you open your eyes, you accept that some aspects of your life will resist. Some will squeak. Others will try to pull you back. It doesn't matter. You don't argue with the old state. You don't debate with appearances. You just repeat silently, I already know who I am inside, and this is what will be reflected. And you move on, day after day. Visualization done this way ceases to be an isolated act and becomes a continuous line that runs through everything you do. This is why, if you have truly decided to let reality obey, you need to stop begging for external signs. Signs are just echoes. You don't chase echoes. You emit the voice and let the sound reverberate where it needs to. Your visualization is that voice. When it is firm, coherent, repeated calmly, sooner or later the echo arrives in the form of an encounter, a message, an opportunity, an unexpected change. But you don't live chasing these echoes. You live at the source. The source is the state. It's in that you establish yourself. It's with it that you lie down, with it that you wake up, with it that you walk through the streets. Now, either you continue collecting theories, or you decide that this is the moment when your relationship with visualization changes forever. Stop begging for changes. Stop behaving like someone waiting for an external miracle. Start ordering silently and with certainty that your reality obey the state you assume within yourself. When old thoughts come, you don't argue. You replace them. When old circumstances appear, you don't surrender. You recognize them as remnants of an old script you no longer direct. When doubt arises, you don't seek advice from fear. You return to the final scene, to the chosen identity, to the state you decided to inhabit. From today on, every time you close your eyes to visualize, do so as someone signing a decree. Not to test, not to see if it works, not to relieve anxiety for a few minutes, but to affirm before your own consciousness who you are and in what reality you live inside. If you maintain this attitude, refuse to negotiate with lower states, and sustain yourself with discipline. In what you have assumed, life will have no choice but to bow, not because you forced it, but because you finally understood the only law that has always been operating. The visible world is merely a shadow. Form is a delayed reflection. The cause is the state. You were not born to be a hostage to the stories you've told yourself so far. You can honor everything you've lived without continuing to sign the same script. Every time you choose a new state, you are in practice closing old chapters and writing a different continuation to your own life. This is the responsibility and, at the same time, the privilege that consciousness offers you. So, choose your state. Visualize as if remembering what has already happened. Walk as if you have already arrived. And if you want concrete support to consolidate this new posture, go back to the pinned comment and use the material there as a daily tool. It exists to help you transform this understanding into consistent practice. to move visualization from the realm of good intentions to the center of your routine. Do this seriously and you will see, with both amazement and familiarity, reality begin to obey, scene after scene, the inner character you have finally decided to be. Close your eyes and feel the weight of your body surrender to the mattress. Breathe deeply like someone returning home after a long journey. With each exhalation, release the tensions, the fears, the worries, because now you are returning to the center of everything, the place where the entire universe begins within you. For so long you were taught to look outward, to wait for circumstances to change, for someone to give you something, for time to favor you. But all of that is an illusion. What you call life is merely the reflection of what you already accept as true within your being. The world is not a broken mirror, it is a perfect mirror. It reflects with surgical precision what you hold in consciousness, even when you don't perceive it. There is a silent order in the universe, an invisible intelligence that responds to your every thought like a faithful servant. It doesn't distinguish between what you want and what you fear. It merely obeys the state you assume. And that is why the first step to manifesting miracles is not to do something. It is to be something. The miracle doesn't come from outside. It blossoms the moment you stop asking and begin to trust. While the body rests and the mind surrenders to sleep, a deeper part of you awakens. This part knows the way without a map, hears the call without words, and creates effortlessly. It is the I Am, the silent presence that exists before any thought, before any name, before any form. And it is this presence that today I invite you to remember. You are not a lost fragment trying to find the whole. You are the whole experiencing a fragment. And when you understand this, the struggle ceases. There is no more resistance, only surrender. There is no more doubt, only trust, because what you seem to seek was always within you, awaiting the moment when you would cease the noise of the world to be able to hear the voice of certainty. Now in this state between sleep and wakefulness, where reason quiets and the soul speaks, make space for something sacred, the remembrance that everything you imagine with faith already exists. You don't need to force, control, or understand the how. The universe doesn't ask for explanations. It simply responds to the feeling held with conviction. Therefore, in this meditation, you have not come to learn another technique. You have come to remember what the world made you forget, that you are the creator of the visible and the master of the invisible, that every image you embrace in silence is a living seed, and that every emotion you choose to feel is an order given to the universe. As you delve into the next words, let your mind become light, as if floating in the very space of creation. Nothing needs to be done. Nothing needs to be proven. Just feel and trust. Because what you now accept as real is what the universe will hasten to confirm. Now you are ready. The silence is prepared, and creation begins within you. First principle: everything begins within you. Nothing exists outside your consciousness. The world you see, the people you meet, the circumstances that surround you, all of this is merely a projection of what silently vibrates within you. When you look around and see disorder, lack, or pain, you are not facing a contrary force but a mirror. And the mirror has no will of its own. It merely reflects. While you sleep and dream, the world remains active because your imagination never sleeps. The universe, which you believe to be outside, is in reality your imagination projected on a grand scale. Every detail of your life, from the smallest gesture to the greatest events, is shaped by the state of consciousness you have chosen to inhabit. Life doesn't happen to you. It emerges from you. When man doesn't understand this, he fights against shadows. He tries to fix the reflection instead of changing the image that produces it. He begs for blessings while remaining in a vibration of lack. He asks for light while clinging to fear. He seeks miracles but doubts the power that creates them. And so the same cycle repeats, because the exterior can only change when the interior is transfigured. Nothing, absolutely nothing, happens by chance. What you call chance is merely the part of the law you do not yet understand. Every encounter, every door that closes, every person who enters or leaves your life, everything is the perfect answer to the state you have chosen to sustain. And as long as you don't accept that the cause is within, you will remain a prisoner of the effect. Therefore, the first principle is a call to divine responsibility. Not the kind of responsibility that burdens or blames, but the kind that awakens power. When you understand that you are the origin of everything you perceive, you cease to be a victim. You stop chasing after circumstances, people, results. You begin to turn inward, to the center of creation, the silent place where everything begins and everything ends. Within that center, there is no effort, only acceptance. Because the universe doesn't respond to your words, but to your calm state of being. You can repeat 1,000 affirmations and prayers, but if doubt vibrates within you, the result will be manifest doubt. But if certainty vibrates within you, even without words, the universe bends to serve you. Remember, the world has no initiative of its own. It is a stage where your consciousness performs. You are the screenwriter, the director, and the main actor. Every scene, every dialogue, every change of scenery, everything is decided by you, even if unconsciously. He who understands this ceases to react. He observes the reflection without fear because he knows he can change it at any instant by changing the state that produces it. When you say I am, you are uttering the most powerful of affirmations. The entire universe responds to these words like a servant to the voice of its master. I am weak, and life will show you proofs of weakness. I am fortunate, and everything will begin to conspire in your favor. Not because the words themselves have power, but because they express the inner state you are choosing. The universe is neutral, perfect, and obedient. It doesn't argue, it reflects. And it is at this point that many err. They wait for conditions to change before they feel different. They want to see the result to believe, but the law is the opposite. Believe first, feel first, and the world will come as confirmation. Nothing blossoms before it is a seed. Nothing appears before it is accepted. The cause is always invisible. When you begin to understand this, your prayer changes. It ceases to be a plea and becomes a recognition. You no longer say, Lord, give me, but rather, Lord, I am. And this I am is the point where creation awakens. It is the moment when the invisible bows before the awakened consciousness of the Creator. Look around you. Everything you possess, every relationship, every opportunity, every absence, everything is a mirror of what at some point you accepted as true about yourself. And if you want to change the mirror, you don't need force, only vision. Close your eyes and imagine differently. Sustain the new image with emotion, with love, with faith. Emotion is the seal of creation. Feeling is the brush with which you paint the world. Perhaps you ask, but what about others? And what do they do? And I tell you, they are also part of your consciousness. The external world is the perfect setting for your inner learning. Others are roles played to show you what you still believe. He who hurts you shows the belief in limitation. He who blesses you confirms faith. Nothing is against you, everything is with you. As long as you accept the role of victim, the universe will sustain you in that role. But the instant you assume the role of creator, everything changes. Obstacles dissolve, doors open, coincidences multiply. Because the world has no choice, it is forced to align with the state you accept as real. Therefore, when I tell you that everything begins within you, it is not a metaphor. It is the literal truth of the universe. You are the beginning and the end. You are the point of origin of all experiences. When you change the vibration of your consciousness, life will respond like the echo of a new voice. Before sleeping, acknowledge, everything I see is myself projected. Don't say this with guilt, but with gratitude, because that means you have the power to transform everything. If the world is a reflection, then you just need to change the inner mirror. And this change begins in imagination, sustained with conviction, felt with truth. Feel now deeply that you are the source, that everything around you is just awaiting your permission to change. Money, love, health, peace, none of this is far away. All of this is just form awaiting the command of awakened consciousness. When you understand this, you will see that you were never small. You just forgot who you are. And this remembrance is the first miracle. Because when man returns to the center, the universe returns to its axis, and what you once called miracle becomes routine. So, repeat in silence, with reverence and power. Everything begins in me, and in me, everything is fulfilled. Allow this phrase to resonate like a decree, not a request. Feel it expanding in your chest until it touches the space around you. And understand, what you say now, the universe is already obeying, because you are the very cause of creation. And the world is merely your reflection. Second principle, don't ask, assume. The universe doesn't respond to pleas but to states. When you ask, you confess lack. When you assume, you express power. He who asks says, I still don't have. He who assumes declares, I already am. And the universe, being obedient and literal, merely reflects what you affirm yourself to be. Thus, the more you ask, the further you place yourself from what you desire. But when you silently assume the state of already having, creation hastens to manifest the corresponding reflection. The human mind has been trained to beg. From an early age, man learns to seek outside. He asks others, he asks God, he asks chance. But the awakened Creator doesn't ask. He commands not out of arrogance but out of knowledge of the law. He knows that consciousness is the only reality, and that the I am within him is the same power that sustains the stars. He doesn't try to convince the universe. He instructs it with the vibration of certainty. To assume is not to pretend. Pretending is effort, it's theater. Assuming is repose. When you assume, you stop fighting, because you already feel complete. The beggar worries, the Creator rests. This is the difference between one who waits for the miracle and one who becomes the miracle. The man who knows that everything already is, lies down in peace. He doesn't need to control or hurry. He merely aligns himself. To assume is to mentally enter the end. It is to feel now as one who already lives the desired outcome. If you desire abundance, feel the fullness before the money arrives. If you desire love, feel loved before someone proves it. If you desire healing, feel whole before the body obeys. Because the body, money, and people are merely instruments, and the conductor is your inner state. As long as your mind asks, it confirms delay. But when it assumes as it creates. Therefore, the true creative act is silent. There are no words, only a deep sense of completeness. It's like the artist who finishes a painting and simply contemplates it. It's like the seed that rests in the soil, knowing the fruit will come. He who assumes doesn't seek signs. He knows that the signs will come as echoes of the accepted state. Therefore, he doesn't despair when nothing seems to happen, because he understands that the invisible is already in motion. Physical eyes don't see what faith has already decreed, but time, obedient, will bring the confirmation. Jesus didn't ask the Father to multiply the loaves. He gave thanks before seeing them. This is the key of the awakened Creator. Gratitude before the proof, rest before the manifestation, because thanksgiving is the language of what is already done. He who gives thanks beforehand manifests first. He who asks too much waits forever. Many confuse faith with hope. Hope looks to the future. Faith dwells in the now. Hope says, one day it will be. Faith declares, it already is. And as the universe is a reflection, it can only confirm what is sustained in the present. There is no power in one day. There is power only in now. When you understand this, your prayer changes tone. It ceases to be a plea and becomes a declaration. No longer do you say, Lord, help me, but rather, I am sustained. No longer do you ask, take me out of scarcity, but you affirm, I am manifest abundance. The verb changes, and with it, the world changes. Because every word is born from a state, and every state generates a reality. To assume is an act of courage. It requires abandoning the addiction to waiting, the attachment to suffering, the need for external confirmation. It requires walking by faith and not by appearance. It requires looking at life and even in the face of the opposite saying, still I am. And in that still resides creative power. Because when the world seems to deny, the Creator sustains. When appearance screams no, faith responds, it already is. And the universe, obedient to consciousness, begins to rearrange itself. People change, doors open, synchronicities arise. Everything conspires in favor of one who already is. But there is a secret. One cannot deceive the state. It's not enough to repeat words, one must feel. The universe doesn't read the sound of your voice. It reads the vibration of your being. If you affirm wealth but vibrate in fear, you manifest lack. If you declare love but vibrate in need, you attract absence. But if in silence you breathe the feeling of what is already fulfilled, then creation bends. Therefore, before sleeping, enter the state of what is already done. Feel yourself within the desired scene as if it were now. Don't look at it from outside, live it from within. Feel the ground under your feet, the air you breathe, the touch, the smell, the emotion. Allow the body to sleep in that state, and the universe will work during sleep. Sleep is the altar of the Creator. It is there that the invisible takes form. And when you awaken, don't seek proofs, be the proof. Walk with the posture of one who already has. Speak with the calm of one who has already seen. Give thanks as one who has already received. Because the world cannot resist this certainty. It bows before the consciousness that has already decided. So today, instead of asking, assume. Feel the silent power of the I Am. Say in your mind, with the authority of the Creator, I no longer ask, I already am. And observe. The universe will hear this decree and reorganize itself to prove that you were right all along. To assume is the most silent and most powerful act that exists. It is surrender without doubt, command without effort, recognition without fear, and when man learns to assume, he discovers the secret of all miracles, that nothing needs to be brought from outside because everything already exists within. Third principle, imagine with faith, not with doubt. Imagination is the womb of the universe. Everything that exists was born from it. Before any form appeared, before there was light, sound, or matter, there was only consciousness, and within that consciousness, the image. Man has forgotten this power because he learned to doubt. He imagines good, but then quickly destroys it with thoughts of fear and impossibility. Thus, creative power is wasted, and life becomes a reflection of uncertainties, not dreams. When I tell you, imagine with faith, I'm not talking about an empty fantasy, but an act of conscious creation. Imagine, not as one who dreams, but as one who commands. See the desired scene with the eyes of the mind, feel it with the heart, and accept it as truth. Doubt is imagination's only enemy. It cuts the thread that connects the invisible to the visible. Faith, on the other hand, is the seal that transforms what is mental into physical, what is invisible into tangible. You can pray 1,000 times, but if your imagination contradicts your words, nothing will move. Because prayer is not spoken with the tongue, it is spoken with the inner image. The universe doesn't hear sounds, it reads vibrations, and the vibration of doubt is the negation of the request. When you imagine and doubt, you are saying, I don't believe. And the universe, obedient as always, responds, so be it. Therefore, it's not about imagining with force, but with purity. A single image, sustained with faith, is more powerful than 1,000 anxious thoughts. Faith doesn't need to push, just sustain. It is the calm of the Creator who knows, what I see within, the world will see outside. Haste is the voice of doubt. Rest is the signature of certainty. Imagine with faith. Close your eyes and contemplate what you desire as if it already were. See the final result, not the process. The universe doesn't need you to tell it how, only what is. Faith is the state of the accomplished end, and the end contains all the means. If the end is true within you, the path will make itself without effort. When you imagine with doubt, you divide your creation. It's like planting a seed and uprooting it the next day to see if it's growing. Nothing blossoms without patience. Faith is the fertile soil. Doubt is the desert. What you imagine and allow to rest grows in silence. The universe doesn't forget what was felt with conviction. Doubt always asks, what if it doesn't work out? Faith answers, it already has. Doubt looks at what is. Faith looks at what will be and acts as if it already were. Doubt tries to control. Faith rests and watches the reflection change. You were not made to fight reality, but to redesign it. Your imagination is the brush with which you paint destiny. Every scene you create within you is a living form waiting to be born. But birth only happens when faith is the womb that sustains it. It doesn't matter what you see now. What matters is what you choose to see within. The blind man who imagines light will find it. The poor man who imagines abundance will attract it. The sick man who imagines health will embody it. Because what you imagine with faith is not just thought, it is creative vibration. Jesus didn't see the sick, he saw the healed. He didn't see the stormy sea, he saw the calm. He didn't doubt because he saw the invisible as more real than the visible, and that is how the miracle happens, not by effort, but by inner vision. Don't worry if you can't see clearly in your mind. Imagination is not just image, it is feeling. If you can't see, feel. Feel the result as true, and that will be enough. The sensation is the most direct channel between you and the invisible. When you feel something intensely, creation has already begun. Every time you imagine with faith, you are writing the script of your own life. Every time you doubt, you tear out a page. There is no punishment, only consequence. Life returns what you sustain. Doubt is the voice of the old mind which lives in fear and lack. Faith is the voice of the spirit which knows that everything already is. Therefore, when doubt comes, don't fight it. Just smile and say, I know who I am. I am the creator, not the creature, and return to your image, to your accomplished end, to the feeling of what is already fulfilled. Rest there until it becomes natural. Naturalness is the secret. When desire no longer seems distant and becomes familiar, it becomes inevitable. Everything that is natural to consciousness manifests in the physical world. Thus, your only job is to make the desired natural within you. Imagine with faith, effortlessly. Feel the joy of having already received. Mentally live the final scene until it seems real to you, and then forget it. Not because you doubt, but because you trust. Trust is the silence after the decree. And in that silence the universe works. So while your body rests and your mind relaxes, repeat inwardly, I see only the accomplished end. I feel only the certainty of what is already fulfilled. And when sleep envelops you, let this image descend to the deepest part of your consciousness. Because what is seen with faith during sleep becomes destiny in wakefulness. Nothing is missing from you, because everything you imagine with faith is already yours. Doubt is merely the shadow of old belief, but you are not a shadow, you are light. And when your imagination aligns with that light, the impossible bows before you. Therefore, remember, don't ask, don't fear, imagine with faith. Because faith doesn't create, it reveals what always was. Fourth principle, don't believe in signs, create them. The human mind loves to seek external confirmations. It looks at the clock expecting coincidences, observes repeated numbers, phrases on billboards, gestures of people, and says, the universe is sending me signs. But the truth is that the universe doesn't send signs. It reflects states. Every coincidence that arises is merely the mirror of what already vibrates within you. It's not the sign that creates the state. It's the state that creates the sign. As long as you believe that signs come from outside, you will remain a prisoner of appearances. You will be like someone who looks at a reflection in the water trying to change his face. The reflection merely obeys. So is life. If your interior changes, the reflection alters. If the interior remains the same, no new sign can save you. The awakened man doesn't wait. He creates. He is not impressed by what he sees, because he knows that what he sees is delayed. It's crystallized past. True power lies in the invisible, and the invisible is moved by what you accept as real now. When you imagine something and remain faithful to the image, the entire universe begins to organize itself in silence. People, places, circumstances, everything begins to align, even if your eyes don't yet see it. But the impatient man looks around and says, I still see nothing, maybe it's not working. And in that instant, he undoes what he had created, because the universe can only confirm what is sustained without hesitation. Therefore, don't believe in signs, be the sign. Instead of waiting to see changes, feel yourself as the change. Instead of seeking proof, become the proof. The most powerful sign in the universe is your own state. When you are at peace, the world around you organizes itself to reflect that peace. When you are in inner abundance, opportunities begin to sprout naturally. When you are in love, relationships transform effortlessly. He who seeks signs lives in delay. He who creates signs lives at the origin. And to live at the origin is to live as God, the center from which everything flows. Think of an artist painting a canvas. He doesn't wait for the colors to mix themselves. He decides what each stroke will be. So are you. You were not made to interpret the world. You were made to project it. Your imagination is the brush. Faith is the hand that holds the brush. And feeling is the paint that gives color to creation. When you doubt and wait for a sign to believe, you are telling the universe, I still don't believe. But when you assume the state and sustain it, the sign comes as a consequence. And the curious thing is that when it comes, you no longer need it because you are already convinced. This is the true spiritual paradox. Signs only appear when you stop needing to see them. The visible world is the stage where the invisible takes form. But the scene is written within, not outside. Therefore, if you want to see new signs, change the script you sustain in your mind. Don't look at time, money, news, statistics. All of these are old reflections, echoes of a previous state. If you feed fear, the world will show you reasons to fear. But if you sustain faith, the world will bend to prove you right. Creation doesn't need proofs, it is the proof. When you accept something internally with conviction, the universe has no choice, it must reflect. Not by miracle, but by law. The law of assumption knows no exceptions. It doesn't punish, it doesn't reward, it merely reflects. Remember, the reflection always comes afterward. It is useless to look in the mirror and expect to see a new face before changing your expression. First, change the interior. Sustain the new image, and then the mirror of the world will show what already is. Many say, when I see, I will believe, but the Creator responds, when I believe, I will see. The difference between the two is power. The first lives as a servant of circumstances, the second rules over them. If you desire a sign, create it now. Don't wait for it from heaven. Draw it in your imagination. See the phone ringing with good news. See money flowing, love blossoming, the body healing, not as hope, but as conviction. And the physical world, which is obedient to your faith, will materialize the image you have sustained. But beware of the subtle error. To imagine with doubt is like planting and uprooting. The universe needs continuity, not anxiety. It doesn't respond to brief impulse, but to the constancy of feeling. Therefore, imagine, feel, and rest. Don't question when. When is the language of the mind. It already is the language of divine consciousness. Every visible sign is merely the echo of the invisible state. Therefore, don't wait for signs to act or trust. Trust and act, and signs will come naturally. The Creator doesn't seek confirmation. He is the confirmation. He doesn't need to see to believe because he knows that the invisible is more real than the visible. So tonight, as you close your eyes, don't expect to see anything. Create, feel, vibrate, as if everything were already fulfilled. And when you awaken, live as one who has already seen the result. Act with the serenity of one who knows that the universe is merely the mirror of your certainty. Repeat in silence. I don't seek signs, I am the sign. And this simple affirmation will change the way the universe responds to you. Because when you become the sign, the whole world reorganizes itself around your faith. What once seemed like coincidence will become constant synchronicity. What once seemed like random signs will become natural confirmations. And what you once called a miracle will become routine. Because you will finally understand that the miracle doesn't come from outside. It is born from the state you dared to sustain. Fifth principle, time is a servant, not a master. The common man kneels before time as if it were an invisible god, a judge who decides when, where, and if things will happen. He waits. He waits for the right time, the ideal moment, the perfect opportunity. And while he waits, time consumes him, because time is merely the reflection of his own belief in delay. But the awakened Creator doesn't wait. He commands. He knows that time has no will of its own. It is merely the obedient servant of consciousness. Everything you see in the physical world is the past in form. It is the reflection of an inner state already accepted. Thus, when you look around and say, "It hasn't happened yet," you are merely observing the echo of an old thought. The present you experience today is the result of yesterday's imagination, and the future you will experience will be the reflection of what you accept as real now. When you understand this, you stop measuring life by dates and begin to measure it by states. Because creation doesn't depend on time, it depends on acceptance. Time is merely the distance between the moment you assume and the moment the reflection appears. And this distance is not punishment, it is mercy. It is the interval that allows your faith to solidify, but many confuse patience with waiting. To wait is to linger in emptiness like one watching a clock. To have patience is to rest in the certainty of what is already done. Waiting doubts, patience trusts. Waiting asks, when? Patience declares, it already is. And the universe, obedient, responds to the vibration you sustain. Time has no power over you. It bends before one who knows what he is. He who lives in the desired state attracts circumstances that confirm it, and everything organizes itself effortlessly. When you internally accept a truth, reality accelerates to adjust to it. Therefore, time is a servant, and a swift servant. Doubt, however, slows it down. Fear paralyzes it. Impatience distorts it. Because time is not linear as men think. It is malleable, shaped by the intensity of your conviction. A minute of firm faith can be worth more than years of uncertainty. See, for example, the artist who paints with inspiration. He loses track of time because he is immersed in the creative state. The same happens to you when you enter into harmony with your desire. Time dissolves. Hours bend. The impossible hastens. The universe doesn't need days, weeks, or years. It only needs an instant of total acceptance. Therefore, no longer say, it will happen. That is the language of the servant. Say, it is done. That is the language of the master. When you accept that it already is, time, like a faithful servant, hastens to prove you right. How many times have you said, time flew? It flies when your mind is present in the now, because the now is the only point where power resides. The Creator doesn't live in the past because the past is shadow. He doesn't live in the future because the future is hope. He lives in the now, and the now is eternity. All creation is instantaneous. The time you perceive is merely the interval necessary for the invisible to become visible. Don't despair over this interval. It is proof that the process is underway. The seed doesn't sprout the instant it is planted, but the fruit is already contained within it. So it is with your desire. It is already complete within you. Time merely reveals what has already been decreed. Many say, one day I will be happy. And the universe responds, one day. Others say, I am happy now. And the universe, without delay, confirms, so it is, because time is not the one who decides, it is the one who obeys. When you place yourself in the vibration of one who already is, time loses its power. Opportunity appears sooner than expected. Healing arrives before the diagnosis. Money appears before the need. Not because there was a miracle, but because consciousness commanded. And time, the faithful servant, simply rushed to fulfill the order of its master. But when you say it hasn't come yet, you create an abyss. When you say one day it will come, you postpone what is already yours. Therefore, use time as a tool, not as a prison. Do not submit to the calendar. Submit the calendar to your faith. Every instant can be the perfect moment if your state is perfect. Perfection is not in the clock, it is in acceptance. So, as you lie down tonight, abandon the idea of waiting. Feel deeply that what you desire already is. Don't say tomorrow. Don't say one day. Say now, and sleep in that now as one who already lives the result. Sleep is the temple where time dissolves. While you sleep, your consciousness works outside of space and clock. It moves mountains effortlessly, brings people closer, opens paths. And when you awaken, act as one who has already received, not with haste, but with serenity, not with anxiety, but with authority, because time is the servant of the awakened man, and every servant obeys the voice of his master. Say now, with silent conviction, time serves me. It bends to my state, and feel the power of this truth vibrate within you. Because when the Creator recognizes his authority, time becomes an ally, and then what once seemed distant draws near, what seemed impossible comes to pass, and what you called future reveals itself as the eternal now of your own consciousness. Do not be deceived by the clock. It is merely a symbol of your belief. Time is not an obstacle, it is an instrument. And you are the conductor. The tempo obeys the beat of your faith. Haste is noise, but trust is music. And when your consciousness plays the right note, the entire universe dances to the rhythm of your now. Sixth principle, fear is inverted faith. Fear is the unconscious use of the same force that creates miracles. It is faith applied to the opposite of what you desire. It is imagination sustained in the worst-case scenario. It is creative power working against you, not out of malice, but out of obedience. The universe doesn't distinguish between what you want and what you fear. It merely responds to what you emotionally accept as true. When you feel fear, you are silently affirming, "This can happen to me," and the universe, faithful to your belief, begins to move circumstances to prove you right. Therefore, fear is subtle and dangerous. It seems passive, but it is creative. It plants and harvests at the same time. It feeds what you don't want to see blossom. Many imagine that to overcome fear, it is necessary to fight against it, resist it, confront it head-on. But fear does not dissipate by force. It dissolves by consciousness. Fear is merely the momentary absence of the memory of who you are. When you remember your true nature, fear loses its meaning. It's like a shadow that disappears the instant you turn on the light. Everything that frightens you is born from a lie, the belief in separation. When you believe that there is something outside of you with power over your life, fear is born. But when you understand that everything comes from within, fear transforms into reverence. You stop fearing the world and begin to respect the law. And respect for the law is freedom, not imprisonment. The human mind has grown accustomed to using imagination to foresee dangers. It thinks it is protecting itself, but in reality, it is creating. Fear is the unconscious prayer of one who has forgotten the power he carries. Every worry is a disguised request. Every anxiety is an assumption sustained with emotion, and the universe responds with mathematical precision to what has been emotionally accepted. When you understand that fear is misguided faith, you stop feeling guilt and begin to feel responsibility. You don't need to end fear, just change the direction of faith. The energy is the same. What changes is the focus. He who fears is affirming, "I believe in evil." He who trusts declares, "I believe in divine order." Both are believing, both are creating, but in opposite directions. Therefore, don't resist fear. Observe it. When it arises, breathe deeply and ask yourself, what is this feeling showing me about what I still believe? Because fear is merely the mirror of a hidden belief. And when you see that belief in the light of consciousness, it dissolves. Consciousness is the sun that melts the shadows. Don't fear feeling fear, only fear remaining in it. The difference between the awakened man and the asleep man is not the absence of fear, but the choice not to identify with it. The awakened creator observes fear as a passing cloud in the sky of the mind. He doesn't run, doesn't flee, doesn't fight. He merely says, "Even if fear screams, I remain in peace." And fear without nourishment falls silent. Fear is always a messenger. It shows you where you still believe you are small, limited, separated from the source. But every time you face it with consciousness, you grow. Every time you choose faith instead of panic, you strengthen the invisible muscle of your creative consciousness. Fear is the guardian of the door. It tests your conviction. And when you pass through that door, you realize that there was never a monster, only a distorted mirror of your power. True faith is not the absence of fear. It is the presence of certainty. It is the decision to remain firm even when appearance screams the opposite. It is walking in the dark with the confidence of one who knows that the path is already laid out. It is saying, even if I don't see, I know. And in that I know, fear loses all its strength. When fear arises, and it will arise as a whisper, a shiver, a shadow, just observe. Don't accuse yourself. Just return to the center. Close your eyes and feel your heart pulsing. Remember, this life that pulses within you is God moving, and God does not fear himself. Fear is merely the forgetting of that unity. To every thought of fear, counter with a remembrance of power. I am the cause, not the effect. I am the creator, not the creature. I am the perfect reflection of divine order. Repeat these truths until the vibration of fear dissolves. Because fear cannot resist the remembrance of the I am. While most people run from fear, the awakened man transforms it into a portal. He uses the same energy that would paralyze him to propel faith. He converts trembling into certainty, chaos into focus, doubt into prayer. He understands that fear, when illuminated by consciousness, becomes fuel. It is the push that takes him inward, to the point where nothing external can touch him. So when fear comes, and it will come as a whisper, a shiver, a shadow, just observe. Do not reject it. Say in silence, "I recognize your origin, but I do not feed you." And affirm again, "I trust I am sustained. I am untouchable in my certainty." Fear doesn't need to be destroyed, it needs to be transformed, because the same power that created it is what creates miracles. The only difference is the direction of the gaze. When you look at the light, fear becomes faith. And faith is the silent certainty that nothing can be lacking to you, because the entire universe is within you, waiting only for you to choose to trust. Seventh principle: nothing needs to change outside, only inside. Everything you see around you is consequence, never cause. The external world is a mirror so faithful that it is relentless. It doesn't create, it merely shows what has already been accepted in consciousness. The error of most is to try to change the reflection without changing the face. It's like someone who, upon seeing their own image in a stained mirror, tries to clean the glass when the dirt is on their own face. So is the life of one who seeks to correct circumstances without transforming the inner state. Nothing you see has a life of its own. People, opportunities, challenges, everything is an expression of your inner vibration. When you change the state, the scenery changes naturally. The physical world is merely the stage where your consciousness performs, and as long as you insist on altering the scenery, forgetting the actor, the drama repeats. But the instant you change the character, the state of being you are inhabiting, the entire script rewrites itself. The sleeping man blames the world. He says, "I can't because of the country, the government, the job, the other person," but the awakened man knows that each of these justifications is merely a way of not looking inward. The world is neutral. It merely returns to you the image you silently sustain. Nothing is denied to you, only mirrored. Therefore, don't try to change the scene. Change the actor's state. If you want to see love, become loving. If you want to see abundance, assume the consciousness of one who already has. If you want to see respect, feel worthy. Because the world doesn't respond to your words, but to what you are. You can memorize phrases, affirm prosperity, repeat mantras, but if within you vibrates the fear of lack, the reflection will be lack. There is no possible deception before the law. It is exact like a mirror's reflection. Here's what Neville taught. The exterior is nothing but the echo of the interior. The echo never precedes the voice. When you understand this, life simplifies. You stop fighting against appearances because you understand that they are merely temporary effects. The true creator doesn't argue with shadows. He changes the light that projects them, and that light is consciousness. If you find yourself in an environment of scarcity, don't rebel against it. See it as a mirror of the state you inhabited until now. Give thanks for the reflection, for it shows you the exact point where inner change is needed. And then, without resistance, change the feeling. Close your eyes and imagine the opposite of what you see, until the new state becomes more real than the old one. This is the true alchemy of the soul, to transform shadows into witnesses of your faith. The external world is slow because the internal is constant. It needs time to align with the new vibration. Therefore, don't rush to seek results. Sustain the new vision until it becomes natural. The reflection will come inevitably. There is no force that can prevent the exterior from obeying the interior. Nothing needs to change outside. The outside is merely the inside revealed in time. All struggle is a waste of energy because it tries to invert the natural order of creation. Man fights with effects when he should address the cause, and the cause is always in the assumed state. Have you ever seen the sun struggle to light the day? No, it simply is, and the world lights up as a consequence. So too, when you assume the state of light, the world reorganizes itself around you. There is no effort, there is alignment. The error arises when man thinks that the world is an opposing force, but the world is not your enemy. It is your reflection. It is the faithful collaborator who accurately reproduces what you decree yourself to be. Therefore, when something displeases you, do not rebel. Feel compassion, because the reflection is serving you. It shows you where your belief still needs to be purified. To change outside is to put makeup on the cause. To change inside is to heal the root. And the root of life is imagination sustained with faith. Think of a garden. It's no use rearranging the flowers if the soil remains the same. Change the soil, and the flowers will change as a consequence. So too with your life. The soil is your inner state. The fruit is your external reality. Therefore, all true transformation is silent. It begins the moment you decide to feel different. And when the feeling changes, the entire universe begins to reorganize itself. People disappear, others emerge, opportunities reveal themselves, doors close and new ones open. None of this is coincidence. It is the reflection obeying the new vibration. So if you want to change the world, don't touch it. Touch your consciousness. See within you the scene opposite to what bothers you. Feel it as real. And then rest in the certainty. It is done. You don't need to announce, explain, or convince anyone. The universe doesn't respond to words. It responds to states. Repeat in silence. Nothing needs to change outside. I change within, and the world obeys. This is the law, and the law never fails, because the world is a mirror, and your consciousness is the face it reflects. When you understand this, life ceases to be a battle and becomes art, the divine art of creating realities from your being. Eighth principle, give thanks before seeing. Gratitude is the language of the awakened creator. It is the seal of faith, the signature of what is already fulfilled. When you give thanks for something you don't yet see, you are telling the universe, I have already received it. And the universe, faithful to your vibration, merely confirms what it hears from your consciousness. To give thanks beforehand is the most silent and powerful gesture that exists. It is faith in action. The common man only gives thanks afterward. He sees the result, touches the fruit, counts the money, receives the answer, and only then says thank you. But this is not gratitude, it is reaction. True gratitude is born before, in the invisible. It is the anticipated joy of one who already knows the end. And when the end is accepted internally with emotion, the physical world hastens to translate it into form. Gratitude is proof that you have understood the law. It is the language of certainty. When you say thank you without yet having received, your consciousness is witnessing the invisible reality as already existing. And the universe responds, so be it. Because it doesn't distinguish between the seen and the felt, it merely obeys the feeling held with conviction. It is not possible to give thanks and doubt at the same time. Doubt asks, gratitude affirms. Doubt waits, gratitude rests. Doubt complains, gratitude recognizes. He who learns to give thanks before the miracle appears has already entered the state of the miracle. Every true prayer is an expression of gratitude. The error is to believe that prayer is a request. A request declares absence, and the universe returns absence. But gratitude declares presence, and the universe returns abundance. Therefore, when you want to change something, don't ask. Give thanks. Don't say, Lord, give me. Say, Lord, I thank you because I have already received. This is the secret of those who create with authority. To give thanks beforehand is an act of power. It is to live mentally in the result before it manifests. It is to act as one who already has, speak as one who has already won, feel as one who has already achieved. And this state of inner fullness is irresistible to the universe. It is forced to align with the vibration of completeness. Genuine thanksgiving changes the frequency of the mind. When you give thanks sincerely, there is no room for lack. A grateful mind becomes an open, receptive, expansive channel. And the more you give thanks, the more you receive, not by luck, but by law. The consciousness of abundance attracts abundance, just as sound attracts echo. Gratitude is vibration, not just words. Many say thank you mechanically, but continue to vibrate in scarcity. True gratitude is felt, not spoken. It is the deep emotion of one who recognizes that everything is already done. When this feeling becomes natural, the universe has no choice but to materialize it. Think of the sun. It doesn't wait for applause to shine. It gives because it is its nature. Gratitude does the same for you. It places you in the effortless flow of giving and receiving. He who gives thanks beforehand becomes a source, and the source never dries up. Even in the face of a difficult circumstance, give thanks, not for the pain, but for what it is revealing. Every challenge is merely a mirror of the part of you that still needs to remember its own power. Give thanks, because it means that the universe is still training you to sustain something greater. Gratitude transforms obstacles into portals, losses into lessons, waiting into gestation. He who complains blocks the flow. He who gives thanks opens the floodgates of the invisible. Because complaining vibrates in lack, and lack can only generate more lack. But gratitude vibrates in completeness, and completeness can only generate abundance. So, make gratitude your constant prayer, not just upon waking or before sleeping, but in every instant. Give thanks for the air, for life, for the opportunity to create, for what has already come and for what is on its way. There is no difference between the two, because everything already exists. The difference is only the time it takes for the invisible to become visible. Give thanks as one who harvests. Give thanks as one who already has. And observe, the physical world, obedient to your vibration, will begin to deliver to you the proofs of what your soul already knew. The true creator is one who smiles amidst absence, because he has already seen the invisible. He gives thanks while the world doubts, and the world, embarrassed, rushes to confirm his faith. Give thanks before seeing. Give thanks before touching. Give thanks before understanding. Because thanksgiving is not a response, it is a command. It is the silent decree that says to the universe, "This is mine, and I receive it now." So tonight, while your body rests, whisper with your heart, "Thank you, for it is already done." Repeat this until the feeling replaces the thought, and when sleep envelops you, the vibration of gratitude will descend to the deepest part of consciousness, where all forms are born. And tomorrow, upon opening your eyes, don't seek the miracle. Be the miracle. Walk as one who has already received. Speak as one who already possesses. Breathe as one who already is. Because he who gives thanks beforehand doesn't live waiting, he lives creating. And the universe, the perfect servant of awakened consciousness, does not delay in confirming with proofs what faith had already declared. Ninth principle, sleep in the end. Sleep is the portal between the invisible and the visible. It is the sacred instant when man leaves the world of forms and returns, even if unconsciously, to the creative source. During sleep, the rational mind falls silent, and the subconscious, the faithful servant, takes command. It is in this state that the seed of creation is planted, and everything that was felt before falling asleep begins to become flesh, circumstance, event. Therefore, the instant preceding sleep is the most powerful of your day. It is the moment when your consciousness delivers to the universe the definitive order about what must be manifested. And the universe, obedient, executes without questioning. If you fall asleep in fear, fear blossoms. If you fall asleep in faith, faith bears fruit. If you fall asleep lamenting, the world will give you more reasons to lament. But if you fall asleep giving thanks, the universe will transform your gratitude into visible form. To sleep in the end is to fall asleep feeling the result as already fulfilled. It is to live in imagination, the final scene of what you desire, and let the body rest within that emotion. It doesn't matter if nothing around confirms it. The physical world is slow, but the invisible is instantaneous. When you accept the end within you, time and space merely reorganize themselves to deliver the reflection. The spiritually asleep man falls asleep as a victim. He reviews the day's problems, relives mistakes, reinforces absences, and without realizing it, he is decreeing tomorrow. Every night he plants the same seeds, and every morning he harvests the same fruits. The awakened man does the opposite. He uses sleep as an altar. He consciously chooses what the subconscious will work on. Before sleeping, the creator doesn't say, "I hope it happens." He says, "It is done." He doesn't lie down in anxiety, but in certainty. He doesn't seek the how, because he knows that the how belongs to divine intelligence. He simply surrenders to the feeling of the accomplished end and sleeps in it, like one resting in the arms of the Creator himself. To sleep in the end is an act of pure faith. It is to tell the universe, "I have already seen, I already am." And this silent certainty is the most powerful prayer that exists. It doesn't ask, doesn't beg, doesn't demand. It simply accepts. And what is accepted inwardly cannot fail to become visible. The secret is this. The subconscious accepts as truth everything you feel to be real the moment you fall asleep. It doesn't argue, doesn't reason, doesn't doubt. If you fall asleep with the feeling of failure, it records it as law and reproduces it. But if you fall asleep with the feeling of fullness, it records it and manifests it. The subconscious is the fertile soil of creation, and sleep is the moment of sowing. Therefore, do not lie down carrying the weight of the day. Mentally forgive everything and everyone, including yourself. Free your heart from resentment, because sleep doesn't accept burdens. It only multiplies what it receives. Enter into rest as one who enters a temple. Silence your thoughts and begin to build the desired scene. See clearly, feel deeply. Don't watch the scene as a spectator. Live it. Feel the touch, the sound, the breath, the emotion of already being in the place where you desire. If it is prosperity, feel the relief of one who is already provided for. If it is love, feel the warmth of the beloved presence. If it is healing, feel the body light, restored, perfect. It's not forced imagination, it's a remembrance of what already exists. When the body begins to relax and thought becomes hazy, don't return to fear, remain in the sensation. Repeat softly in your mind, "It is done. I am already what I wish to be." These words descend with sleep and become form with waking. Sleep is the workshop of the soul. It is where the universe works with the raw materials of your faith. What is sustained during sleep manifests with mathematical precision, and the purer the feeling, the faster the response. Therefore, treat the moment of sleeping as sacred. Do not surrender to distraction, to worries, to fear. Surrender to faith. The man who learns to sleep in the end discovers that the power of creation is not in effort, but in rest. He understands that victory is not won, it is assumed. And sleep is the silent testimony of that assumption. It is the way in which consciousness tells the universe, "I trust." Thus, tonight, before closing your eyes, choose the end you wish to live. Not a vague desire, but a specific, simple scene charged with emotion. Feel the joy of having already received. Allow the body to completely surrender to this sensation. And when sleep takes you, the universe will begin to weave the invisible path that will make your vision inevitable. Sleep in the end, not as one who waits, but as one who knows. Not as one who asks, but as one who possesses. Because he who sleeps in the end awakens at the beginning of the miracle. 10th principle: don't speak of what you don't want to perpetuate. Every word is a seed. Every phrase spoken with emotion is a silent decree cast into the soil of consciousness. Man has forgotten the power of his own voice, and therefore speaks without vigilance, laments without realizing, describes pain with the same force with which he could create healing. The law doesn't distinguish between what you want and what you reject. It merely multiplies what you affirm with feeling. And every time you speak of what you don't desire, you are asking for more of it, even without knowing. The word is not sound, it is creative vibration. It is born from the inner state and returns to it amplified. The universe doesn't understand irony or double intentions. It understands vibration. When you say, "My luck is bad," the universe merely hears bad and delivers you proofs. When you say, "I don't want to lose," it hears lose and responds with losses. Therefore, the awakened man is careful with what comes out of his mouth. He knows that every syllable is living energy, and that the word is the channel through which consciousness becomes flesh. Don't speak of what you lack, speak of what you already are. Don't describe the problem, describe the solution. Don't say it's difficult, say I am learning. Don't say life is hard, say life is shaping me for something greater. You are not lying, you are choosing which reality to feed. Because what you feed with words grows, and what you ignore fades away from lack of attention. The common man speaks to relieve himself. The awakened man speaks to create. One speaks of pain, the other speaks of the truth behind the pain. One speaks of what he sees, the other speaks of what he chooses to see, and between the two the universe decides what to reflect. The scriptures say, "In the beginning was the Word." This means that everything that exists began with a word, and the word is still the primal matter of creation. Every time you speak, you recreate the world in your image and likeness. Speech is not mere sound, it is the vibration of the inner state being sown in the field of the invisible. Therefore, guard your tongue as one guards a treasure. Before speaking, ask, "Do I want to see what I am about to say multiplied?" If the answer is no, Be silent. Silence is more creative than a word impregnated with fear. Because silence keeps energy pure, while misguided words fragment it. Don't speak of what you don't want to perpetuate, because every time you do, you are reaffirming its existence in the realm of form. To speak is to fix. Every complaint is an affirmation of faith in the problem. And the universe, obedient, merely confirms, so be it. But the same law that multiplies negativity multiplies blessing. Speak of peace, and you will see peace draw near. Speak of love, and people will reflect love. Speak of prosperity, and your paths will open, because words shape the vibrational field in which you live, and the physical world is merely the echo of that field. When your speech aligns with your faith, the impossible will become natural. Things and people will begin to respond to your new vibration, and you will realize that nothing has changed outside, only within your word. Power is not in beautiful words, but in the silent conviction that sustains them. Avoid repeating stories of pain, even old ones. The past only lives as long as it is narrated. Let it rest in oblivion. Speak of the new, of what you are creating now, of what you wish to expand. Your mind is a garden, and your tongue is the hand that plants. So with consciousness. Don't fear falling silent. Silence is the temple where words are born pure. And when the Creator speaks from that silence, every phrase becomes law. He doesn't speak to convince, but to confirm what he has already accepted as real. Speaking of what is good is a way to multiply it. Praising is expanding the vibration of abundance. When you say thank you, you are calling for more reasons to be grateful. When you compliment, you are opening space to receive compliments. When you affirm all is well, you are declaring that divine order governs your life. And the universe, faithful, responds. He who understands the power of the word does not waste his voice with lamentations. He speaks with purpose. Even in silence, he converses with the invisible, and the invisible hears him. He understands that the word is the bridge between spirit and matter, between desire and form, and every word, spoken or thought, is a vibration cast into the ether, waiting to be returned in concrete form. Therefore, guard your word as one guards the breath of creation itself. Transform every phrase into a blessing. Instead of saying it's impossible, say there must be a way. Instead of saying it's taking too long, say everything is adjusting. Instead of saying I can't, say I am still learning. This simple change of language is the first step of inner transformation. Remember, the universe is literal, not poetic. It doesn't interpret intentions, it obeys vibrations, and your word is the code that programs it. So, make your word an instrument of light. Speak only of what you want to perpetuate, and when you don't know what to say, choose silence, because even silence, when it comes from certainty, creates. Repeat in your mind, my words are living seeds. I plant only what I wish to harvest. And observe, the universe, faithful gardener of your consciousness, will begin to return to you harvests proportionate to what you dared to declare. 11th principle, the universe doesn't respond to what you say, but to what you are. Creation is not made of words, it is made of states. The universe doesn't react to what you proclaim with your mouth, but to what you silently accept as truth within you. You can affirm wealth every day, but if you feel poor, the universe confirms poverty. You can say I am loved, but if rejection vibrates in your heart, rejection repeats. It's not the sound that creates, it's the vibration. And vibration is born from being, not from discourse. The man who tries to deceive the universe with empty phrases is only deceiving himself. He believes he can change the form without altering the essence, but the law doesn't bend to words, it bends to the state. And the state is what you are, not what you say you are. You can say, I trust, but if fear is within, the universe will hear fear. Because the universe is deaf to words, but sensitive to frequency. It feels what you feel, and your emotion is the true prayer. Sound is superficial, state is magnetic. Words can lie, but vibration never lies. The awakened man knows this, and therefore speaks little and feels much. He doesn't waste energy trying to convince the world, he convinces himself within. He doesn't declare to see if it happens, he declares because it has already happened within him. And the universe, obedient to the vibration, merely reflects. When you say something that doesn't correspond to your state, you are not lying. You are trying to affirm something that is not yet natural in you. But the secret is not in repeating until tired. It is in feeling until it becomes true. Repetition without emotion is noise. Repetition with faith is a decree. It is feeling that gives life to the word. Think of an actor playing a role. He can memorize the lines, but he only convinces the audience when he momentarily believes himself to be the character. So it is with you. Creation doesn't respond to speech, but to embodiment. When you become the state, the world responds. Creation is divine theater, and the stage of your life obeys the character you assume. Therefore, if you want to change the scenery, change the character. Don't say, I will have, say, I am. But more than saying, feel. Feel your body reacting to the new identity. Feel the environment recognizing you. Feel the air around you responding to your new being. This sensation is the language the universe understands. Nothing is more powerful than the coherence between word and state. When both align, the universe moves immediately. When you declare something you are capable of feeling, creation hastens because the vibration has become stable. Faith is this, vibrational stability. It is remaining in the same state until the world, vanquished, bows. But many say, I believe, and the next instant doubt. They say, I am prosperous in the morning, and in the afternoon complain of lack. They say, I am healed, and immediately describe the pain. This oscillation is what prevents manifestation. The universe doesn't respond to what is said momentarily, but to what is continuously inhabited. Creation knows no words, it knows frequency. And frequency is not defined by what you say, but by what you silently sustain. The universe is like a soundless mirror. It doesn't hear, it reflects. And the reflection is always faithful to the face you present, not to the story you tell about it. If you want to know what you truly are, observe your life. It is the perfect mirror of what your consciousness sustains. Don't accuse yourself, just recognize. Reality never lies, it merely shows the current state. And the power lies in knowing that it's enough to change the inner state for the reflection to change. There's no need to fight with the old reflection. There's no need to defend, justify, or react. Just cease the old feeling and choose the new. It all begins when you stop saying choose what you want and start being at what you want. Some say, but I affirm every day and nothing changes. And I tell you, it is not the affirmation that transforms. It is the state assumed during the affirmation. You can repeat I am rich 1,000 times and continue vibrating in lack, but it is enough to say I am abundance once and you feel too. It is real, and the universe will bend. The difference is the feeling, not the number of words. The universe is not moralistic. It doesn't judge if you deserve. It merely reflects what you are. Therefore, man's most sacred task is to align his being with his desire. And this alignment doesn't require effort, but remembrance. Remembrance that you are the creator, not the supplicant. The world owes you nothing. It merely obeys you. The secret lies in living as if it already were. It is not falsely acting. It is genuinely feeling. When you behave as one who already is, your body, your voice, your gestures, your words, everything harmonizes with the new state. And the universe, seeing this coherence, confirms, because it is a living law that responds to certainty, not to attempt. It's no use affirming light and nurturing shadow. It's no use saying I am blessed while harboring resentment. The vibration is not what you say, it is what you feel deeply. The word is the seed, the feeling is the water. Without emotion, the seed dries up. When your word is sustained by your being, everything will move. Doors will open, not because you asked, but because you are already the owner of the key. Money will come, not because you begged, but because you have become the vibration of abundance. Love will find you, not because you sought it, but because you embodied it. Life will serve you, because it will recognize in you the frequency of the Creator Himself. Therefore, before speaking, observe your state. Before affirming, feel. Before declaring, become. And then speak, not to convince the world, but to confirm what you already know. This is true prayer, the word spoken from the being. Remember, The universe doesn't hear you, it feels you. It reads your vibration like an open book. There's no way to deceive the law because the law is perfect, and it returns exactly what it receives, no more, no less. So, instead of multiplying words, multiply presence. Instead of reciting formulas, live the truth. Instead of asking the universe, be the universe in action. Repeat in silence, but with power. The universe doesn't respond to what I say. It responds to what I am. And feel this phrase expand within you until there is no separation left between word and being, between faith and form. In that moment, the universe falls silent, not because it ignores you, but because it already obeys you. 12th principle. Silence is creative. The common man fears silence because in it there is no noise to distract him from himself. But silence is the cradle of creation. It is in silence that consciousness speaks, and it is in silence that the universe responds. Every form, every sound, every manifestation is born from emptiness. Before something exists, there is stillness. Before a word is spoken, there is a pause. And that pause is the point where God breathes. It is there that power is concentrated. A noisy mind creates confused realities. The man who talks too much, thinks too much, and feels too much the weight of doubt becomes a prisoner of his own inner voice. He gets lost in words and forgets the power that lies in the interval between them. It is in the interval that creation happens. Silence is not absence, it is undivided fullness. It is the field where everything is possible. He who learns to be silent doesn't flee from the world, he governs it. Because power is not in the effort of speaking, but in the calm of sustaining. Every time you fall silent in the face of doubt, a new reality begins to organize itself around you. The universe listens to silence more than to words. Words say, I want. Silence says, it already is. When you enter into silence, you cease resistance. And when there is no resistance, creative energy flows freely. Man fights with circumstances because he doesn't trust the power of silence. He believes he needs to act, argue, justify, defend himself. But every action born of fear is noise. And noise interrupts the flow of creation. Silence is not passivity, it is authority. It is the state of one who has already decided and doesn't need to repeat. The king doesn't shout orders, he speaks once and everything moves. So it is with awakened consciousness. It issues the command once and rests in silence, knowing that the universe is executing. True silence is not of the mouth, but of the mind. It is when inner dialogue quiets and certainty takes the place of questions. As long as there is doubt, there is noise. As long as there is a need for proof, there is interference. Silence is proof that you trust. It is the signature of mature faith. When man says, I don't know what to do, it is because the noise of the mind has covered the voice of consciousness. The answer is always there, in the space between one thought and another. It is in that interval that intuition speaks, and intuition is the language of God. But to hear it, one must learn to be silent. To silence is not to forcibly stop thinking, but to shift the mind's focus to being. It is to allow thought to dissolve into the present. It is to be so entirely in the now that there is no room for fear of the future or for the weight of the past. In silence, you exist pure, whole, and it is from this state that power flows. The world teaches that silence is emptiness. But the awakened creator knows that silence is fullness. It is the place where the invisible organizes itself to become visible. Every prayer you make, every desire you feel, every image you create, everything is answered in silence. The mind's noise prevents you from realizing that the answer has already come. Silence is like the soil, fertile yet still. When the seed is cast, the soil doesn't argue, doesn't ask, doesn't doubt. It merely receives. And in silence, it transforms the seed into life. So it is with consciousness. When you cast a desire and then quiet yourself, the universe works beneath the surface. And when you speak again, you uproot the seed. Learn to be silent after decreeing. Say what you desire only once with conviction, and then keep silent. Don't speak of the matter, don't explain, don't ask for signs. Silence is the seal that closes the creative cycle. Without it, energy disperses. With it, creation is completed. The awakened man speaks little because he has discovered that silence is his most powerful language. When he falls silent, the world bows. When he rests, circumstances move. He doesn't react, he observes. He doesn't force, he allows. And the universe, obedient to his state, responds with accuracy. There is silence in the heart of the stars. There is silence in the growth of trees. There is silence in the flowing of rivers. And yet, everything is in motion. So it is with you. When your mind silences, creation accelerates. Power manifests naturally. Silence is the channel of revelation. It is in it that consciousness shows what is already yours. As long as you speak too much, you block listening. But when you quiet yourself, you hear the gentle voice that has always been there. The voice that guides you without error, without doubt, without noise. Therefore, guard silence as you would guard a temple. When fear screams, fall silent. When anxiety pushes, fall silent. When doubt provokes you, fall silent. And in the center of that silence, affirm with your heart. Everything already is. The universe is in order. Don't say it many times. Say it once and feel. Then let the silence work. Silence is the invisible movement of creation. It is the point where the word returns to the source to gain form. When you learn to be silent, you will discover that you don't need to ask or fight. Life begins to adjust as if by magic. What was confused organizes itself. What was distant draws near. What was impossible becomes natural, because silence is the space where faith transforms into reality. Remember, the universe was created in silence. Galaxies were born without noise. The sun rises effortlessly. And you, made in the image of the Creator, have the same power. Create in silence, decree and rest, speak less, feel more. And when the world asks you what you did to change your life, smile, because true power doesn't shout, it silences. 13th principle, faith is discipline, not emotion. Most believe that faith is feeling inspired, confident, animated, a kind of momentary ecstasy that visits the heart on bright days. But true faith is much simpler and much more demanding. It doesn't depend on emotion, it depends on decision. Faith is the habit of remaining firm in the invisible, even when the visible seems to scream the opposite. It is the discipline of sustaining the assumed state when the whole world tries to convince you otherwise. The common man confuses enthusiasm with faith. He believes while feeling fervor, but collapses when silence comes. He speaks of confidence while everything goes well, but returns to fear at the first absence of a sign. And so he lives with ups and downs, because he has not yet understood that faith is not a flame that needs to be kept alive with emotion. It is a rock that remains unmoving even in a storm. Faith is inner firmness, not excitement. It is serenity, not shouting. It is constancy, not impulse. It is the calm certainty of one who knows that the invisible is more real than the visible. It doesn't seek confirmation, it gives confirmation. It doesn't ask for proofs, it becomes proof. The discipline of faith is the art of sustaining the vision when the eyes cannot see. It is the act of rising every day with the same conviction. It is already done. It doesn't matter what the world says, it doesn't matter what time shows, it doesn't matter what reason tries to prove. Faith looks inward and says, I have decided, and the universe will confirm my decision. True faith is silent. It doesn't need applause nor witnesses. It expresses itself in the way you walk, speak, and breathe. It is the tranquility in the gaze of one who has already seen the future and accepted it as present. It is the courage to smile in the face of apparent failure, knowing it is merely the prelude to victory. Emotion is like the wind. It changes direction easily. Faith is like the sun. It is always present, even when clouds try to hide it. Emotion makes you oscillate, but the discipline of faith anchors you. Therefore, he who seeks to live by emotion will always be a slave to circumstances, while he who cultivates the discipline of faith will become their master. Faith is a choice renewed every instant. It is not a force that falls from the sky, it is a state that is built. Every time you doubt and decide to trust again, you are training your soul. Every time you choose to believe despite the absence of proofs, you are strengthening the invisible muscle of your creative consciousness. Faith grows as the body grows, through exercise. The universe doesn't respond to the brilliance of emotion, but to the constancy of vibration. Emotion changes with mood. Faith remains even when nothing seems to move. The true creator sustains the desired state like the musician who sustains a note until the sound fills the air. He doesn't rush, doesn't interrupt, doesn't get distracted. He knows that the sound of the invisible echoes in time until the physical world accompanies it. The discipline of faith is simple, but it is not easy. It requires vigilance. It requires you to observe your thoughts and realize when you are falling back into doubt. Not to blame yourself, but to restart immediately. Doubt is not failure. It is an invitation to practice. With each return to the state of certainty, your faith becomes more solid, more natural, more automatic. Do not confuse faith with hope. Hope says, I wish it would happen. Faith affirms, it already is. Hope depends on the future. Faith lives in the now. Hope observes circumstances. Faith commands them. Hope tires. Faith rests. The man disciplined in faith does not react to appearances. He knows that what he sees is merely the delayed reflection of what he has already accepted. He is not disturbed by delays because he understands that time is a servant. He is not shaken by negatives because he knows that the universe is merely reorganizing paths. Faith makes him remain in peace while the invisible works. When fear knocks, he recognizes it, but does not feed it. When doubt whispers, he smiles and says, still, I believe. This constancy is what separates the awakened creator from the inconstant dreamer. Because the universe doesn't respond to momentary requests, but to sustained vibration. Faith doesn't need force, it needs focus. It is not an intense emotion, it is a fixed point. It is the silent center amidst the storm. It is the calm of one who knows that the seed cast into the soil does not need to be uprooted every day to grow. It merely needs to be watered with trust. The discipline of faith is the highest degree of freedom, because he who trusts is free from fear, time, and doubt. He lives in harmony with the law, and the law recognizes him as master. Nothing rushes him, nothing shakes him, nothing binds him, because he knows that creation is not measured by movement, but by certainty. Don't seek to feel faith, live faith. Faith is not feeling, it is posture. It is the way you sit before life, with the straight spine of conviction and your gaze fixed on truth. It is remaining firm even when the ground seems absent, because you know that support comes from within. Repeat in your silence, faith is discipline, not emotion, I remain. And when you remain, the universe bows, because power is not in believing for an instant, but in never ceasing to believe. This is the faith that moves mountains, not because it pushes them, but because it dissolves them with the constant warmth of certainty. 14th principle, the world is not against you, it is with you. The sleeping man sees enemies everywhere. He believes that the world is unfair, that life tests him, that people betray him, and that circumstances sabotage him. But the awakened man understands the secret. The universe is not a battlefield, it is a collaborative mirror. It doesn't pursue you, it reflects you. Everything that seems to resist you is, in fact, conspiring for your awakening. The world is a faithful ally of your consciousness. It shows, with perfect precision, where your vibration still needs to be elevated. If something hurts you, it is because within you there is a belief that allows that wound. If something limits you, it is because there is an idea of limitation still active within you. The world doesn't create obstacles. It shows you what you still believe to be impossible. It is a silent teacher, lovingly pointing out where you have forgotten who you are. Most people fight the reflection. They quarrel with life, with people, with conditions, without realizing that the mirror merely returns the image they themselves project. You don't heal the mirror by breaking it. You heal the image by adjusting the source. The world doesn't need to change for you to find peace. You merely need to change the way you see it. Every difficult situation is a disguised message. When the universe wants to teach you something, it dresses up as a challenge. It repeats the lessons until you understand that there is no punishment, only mirroring. Thus, injustice becomes a mirror of your belief in injustice. Rejection reveals your doubt about your own worth. Scarcity shows you how much you still believe in separation. The world is with you, not against you. Even in pain, it cooperates with your expansion. The nature of the universe is order, not chaos. Everything that exists obeys the vibration of your consciousness. Nothing happens by chance. Nothing comes by mistake. What seems like resistance to you is merely life accurately returning to you the state you are sustaining. When you change the state, the world changes its behavior. The same scenario that hurt you yesterday blesses you today because you are different. The awakened man doesn't blame the world. He blesses it. He looks at the storm and says, "Thank you, because you are showing me where I still need to grow." He gives thanks even to the apparent enemy, because he sees in him a precious mirror. He knows that the universe doesn't make mistakes, and that everything that comes is always the perfect answer to the state he himself emitted. When you understand that the world is with you, you stop resisting. And when you stop resisting, life flows. The universe is like water. The more you try to hold it, the more it escapes. The more you surrender, the more it sustains you. Resistance is the root of suffering, but acceptance is the bridge to power. To accept is not to give up. It is to recognize the perfection of the law. The universe is not delayed, it is exact. Nothing is out of place, nothing is missing. Even apparent delay is merely invisible synchronicity. The flower doesn't fight with winter. It rests, knowing that spring is certain. So it is with you. When you trust that the world is with you, the struggle ceases and manifestation accelerates. Those who believe that life is cruel live in a field of resistance. Those who see it as a teacher live in a field of harmony. You choose the type of universe you inhabit by the state you assume. The universe of fear responds with threat. The universe of faith responds with cooperation. See how the world obeys you even in details. When you are at peace, people around you become gentler. When you are angry, traffic seems worse. When you are in gratitude, happy coincidences arise from all sides. This is not luck, it is reflection. The world merely amplifies your vibration. Therefore, when something seems to contradict you, do not react, observe. Ask yourself, what is this trying to show me about myself? And you will soon realize that the obstacle did not come to punish you, but to remind you of your power. Life is never against you. It is your constant partner, teaching you to master the reflection through consciousness. When you look at the world with fear, it returns threat. When you look with love, it returns beauty. When you look with faith, it returns miracles. The world doesn't change, you do. And when you change, the world, obedient, follows your new tone. Nothing can attack you without first receiving vibrational permission. And this permission is not conscious, it is energetic. The mind can say, "I want peace," but if the heart vibrates in conflict, war manifests. There is no deception in the law, it is exact, like a mirror's reflection. So instead of fighting, harmonize yourself. Instead of complaining, bless. Instead of blaming, give thanks. Every time you choose love in the face of chaos, you are re-educating the mirror of the world. And the mirror, grateful for your maturity, begins to show you new reflections. The universe has no preference, it serves. It adjusts to your vibration, be it fear or trust, doubt or certainty. It is with you always, even when you don't perceive it. It is like the wind, invisible, yet present. It is like the ocean, sometimes calm, sometimes stormy, but always sustaining the boat that dares to sail. So, when the world seems to collapse, don't say, "Everything is against me." Close your eyes and say, "Everything is with me, showing me where I still need to remember who I am." And observe how slowly the storm transforms into calm. Because the universe did not come to punish you, it came to teach you to create. And when you learn to see the world as your ally, the impossible dissolves. Doors open, the right people arrive, time adjusts, and you realize that, after all, the world never denied you anything. It was just waiting for you to become someone capable of counter-receiving. 15th principle, everything already is. This is the supreme principle, the synthesis of all previous ones, the truth that dissolves seeking and ends doubt. Everything you desire already exists, not in the future, but now. Time is merely an illusion constructed so that the infinite can be experienced in sequence, but in consciousness, which is the field where all possibilities coexist, what you call tomorrow is already created. There is nothing to conquer, only to recognize. When you understand that everything already is, effort ceases, because there is nothing more to achieve, there is only something to accept. Your task is not to create what you desire, but to align yourself with the vibration of what is already yours. What you call manifesting is, in reality, the act of perceiving what has always been present, awaiting your permission to be seen. The universe doesn't create from nothing. It reveals what is already complete in the invisible. Imagine life as a radio station. All frequencies exist at the same time, but you only hear the one your receiver is tuned to. So it is with creation. Love, abundance, health, peace, all these realities already vibrate in parallel dimensions. You don't create them, you merely change the station. The inner state is the dial that adjusts the tuning. When you assume the desired state, the external world reorganizes itself to reflect this new frequency. The sleeping man lives seeking. He believes that happiness will come when he achieves something, when he moves somewhere, when time passes. But the seeker perpetuates the distance between him and what he desires. To seek is to declare that you do not yet have, and the universe, obedient, confirms, you do not have. But when the awakened creator says, it already is, the universe bows before the order. Because creation responds to consciousness, not to effort. Anxiety is the daughter of the belief in lack. Rest is the fruit of the consciousness of completeness. As long as you believe something is yet to come, you will remain waiting. But when you understand that everything has already come, that the source has never denied you anything, time ceases to be an obstacle and becomes a backdrop. You don't wait for the flower to bloom when the seed already contains the garden. You know that in the invisible it already is. The same applies to your desires. They already exist as living forms in the dimension of consciousness. What the physical world does is merely translate the invisible in sequence. Therefore, don't rush. Just sustain the state of what is already fulfilled. Everything already is. The love you desire already loves you. The money you seek already belongs to you. The health you hope for already inhabits your subtle body. What is missing is not the blessing, it is acceptance. The universe holds nothing back. Man is the one who closes his hands. To accept is different from to desire. Desire says one day, acceptance says now, and the now is the only point where power resides. The awakened creator doesn't live in expectation, he lives in consciousness. He rises in the morning and doesn't think, I hope it happens. He thinks, it is happening because it already is. And by living this way, the invisible hastens to show the reflection. You cannot find what you seek, you can only recognize what you already have. Seeking is the movement of forgetting. Recognition is the return to truth. Therefore, every manifestation is in reality a remembrance. You don't create the new, you remember the eternal. Abundance is not something to conquer, it's something you forgot for an instant. And faith is the act of remembering. When you say everything already is, you are not pretending. You are affirming the nature of the real. You are telling consciousness, I remember. And consciousness, grateful, shows you proofs. Signs appear, people emerge, opportunities flow, not as miracles but as confirmations of remembrance. Everything already is, and therefore nothing needs to be forced. The flower doesn't push its petals, it simply opens. So too your life opens when you stop resisting. Resistance is the denial of already existing perfection. Rest is faith in motion. When you rest in the certainty that everything already is, the universe reorganizes itself to prove that you were right all along. You are part of the whole, and the whole is in you. There is no separation between creator and creation. You are the word itself becoming flesh, the divine thought itself experiencing itself in form. Nothing is lacking to you because nothing can be lacking to the whole. The sea doesn't thirst for waves, they are its own expression. So too you are a living expression of totality. When man awakens and understands that everything already is, fear disappears. Because fear is always future, and the future does not exist. Love, faith, abundance. Everything dwells in the eternal now. The now is God, and God is fullness. Therefore, when you remain present, everything adjusts. When you are absent, everything seems to be lacking. There is no future to build, only a present to recognize. And when you recognize, the future naturally takes shape. Life ceases to be a race and becomes a dance. You stop chasing and start flowing with what has always been yours. Effort becomes unnecessary because what is real does not need to be conquered, only lived. So while the world seeks, you remember. While the world struggles, you rest. While the world doubts, you know. And this silent knowing is the point where the impossible bows. Repeat within you, everything already is. I simply allow myself to see what already exists and feel deeply that nothing is missing, that nothing needs to come, because everything has already come. The universe is complete, and you are the reflection of that completeness. When you perceive this, you cease to be the supplicant of creation and become the Creator himself in peace. And then, for the first time, you understand that the miracle is not bringing something that didn't exist. The miracle is remembering that it was always here. Close your eyes, breathe deeply, and feel the silence between one thought and another. In this instant, the entire universe is within you, quiet, alive, awaiting direction. There is nothing out there that you need to achieve. There is no distant promise to be conquered. Everything you have ever sought already pulses within you, awaiting only your yes. Every principle revealed so far has been a ladder that led you back to the center. And the center is simple. You are the cause and the world is the effect. There is no contrary force, no chance, no blind fate. There is only your consciousness shaping the universe with the precision of a law that never fails. Everything you imagine with faith moves. Everything you accept with certainty materializes. And everything you doubt dissolves, not out of punishment, but out of obedience. Life doesn't judge you, it reflects you. And now, knowing this, you are no longer the same. Your responsibility is divine, and so is your freedom. From today, no longer ask the world to understand you. Make the world obey you. Don't beg for signs, create them. Don't wait for time, command it. Don't look outside, dive within, because it is within that the sun rises. It is within that doors open. It is within that the invisible becomes flesh. Power is not in the words you hear, but in the state you decide to sustain when silence returns. Don't seek to feel something grand. Seek to be something true. Faith is not emotion, it is permanence. The miracle is not luck, it is law fulfilled. And the law is simple. Everything you accept as real within you, the world is forced to confirm. So tonight, when your body rests and your mind quiets, remember what you are. You are not a fragile fragment asking the universe for pity. You are the universe itself, recognizing itself in human form. You are the I am pronounced in flesh, the consciousness that creates worlds by imagining. Choose the highest state your soul can conceive. Feel it now, live it in silence, and sleep in it, as one who has already arrived, as one who already is. Because upon waking you will see that nothing has changed outside, and yet everything will be different. The world will have bowed to your new being. This is the call. Stop being a supplicant and become a creator. Stop waiting and start assuming. Stop doubting and start remembering. The force that moves galaxies is the same one that breathes within you, and it responds to your command. Trust. Everything you desire is already ready, waiting only for your permission to be seen. And when you accept this with the serenity of those who know, and not with the anxiety of those who seek, the entire universe will move with a single answer. So be it. Now in silence, simply repeat, I am. And because I am, everything already is. Allow this certainty to envelop you like a mantle. Feel the peace that comes when the seeker rests, when the creator awakens, and when the universe recognizes its true master. Nothing more needs to be said. The rest, time, circumstances, signs, will come naturally like obedient shadows to the light of your new state. And the light is you. Listen closely, because what I am about to reveal to you is neither a pretty theory nor an empty promise. It is an unyielding law, whether you know it or not. Everything you see in this world, every detail, every victory, every defeat, every encounter and every loss, is merely a reflection of the state you have sustained within yourself. Life doesn't argue with you. It simply returns what you have carried in silence. And that is why I say, in just 1 hour, if you have the audacity to assume the correct state, you can begin to see the world move in your direction. But most people live like beggars before their own creation. They wait for something to change externally before they believe. They look at facts as if they were unquestionable masters, when in truth they are merely delayed echoes of old states. It's like looking in a mirror and trying to convince the reflection to smile before moving your own lips. It's absurd, but this is how most people live, waiting for the reflection to change without ever altering the face that produces it. You must understand that the cause of everything lies in your imagination, sustained with conviction. This is the treasure the world hasn't told you about. The power men seek in formulas, in rituals, in promises from others, is already within you. There are no intermediaries between you and the law. There is no distance between what you desire and what you already are. The only obstacle is your willingness to assume right now, this very instant, that which you wish to experience. And I speak with conviction, because I know few will have the courage to apply this. It's easier to wait for chance, to blame life, to accuse fate. But the law does not respond to laments. The law is not moved by tears. The law bows only before certainty. The whole world may mock you, may call what you sustain within madness, but sooner or later, it will have to yield. Because the reflection cannot resist the face that generates it. Therefore, before I give you the 5 principles, engrave this within yourself. In 1 hour, if you assume with firmness and feel it as real, something will begin to move in your life. The size of the desire doesn't matter. The perceived distance between you and what you want doesn't matter. Distance is an illusion. Time is an illusion. The only reality is the state you inhabit now. The first principle is this: you don't need to wait for signs, circumstances, or external confirmations to believe something is real. All of that is delay. It's deceit. It's the voice of the world trying to dictate who you are. The only true cause lies in your imagination, and it is there that everything is born. When you close your eyes and assume the desired state within yourself, you have already planted the seed, and no force can prevent it from germinating. The physical world is slow, heavy, dense, but the inner world is immediate, absolute, and irreversible. This is why so many fail. They look outward and judge by what they see, when they should inhabit their inner self and rest in the certainty of what already is. Imagine a farmer planting a seed. He doesn't need to dig up the soil the next day to check if anything is happening. He knows it is. He trusts the law of life. It is the same with imagination. When you dare to assume, even if it still feels like just a mental game within, an invisible movement has already begun. Doubt is the only poison capable of killing this process, because doubt is like pulling up the seed before it sprouts. The mistake of the majority is to think they need proof before they can believe, but it's exactly the opposite. You believe first, without proof, and the proof inevitably appears. When you wait for an external sign, you are declaring that the external has more authority than your internal state. You are confessing that you are not the creator, but a hostage. And as long as you remain in that delusion, you will be like a leaf carried by the wind of circumstances. But when you dare to affirm in silence, "This is already mine, because within me I already possess it," at that instant you step out of the role of a beggar and into the role of a master. Make no mistake. Assuming isn't just playful imagining or fantasizing. It is deciding, with firmness, that the desired state is already your present state. It doesn't matter if everything around you screams the opposite. The law doesn't respond to what shouts loudest, but to what is sustained with the most conviction. It's possible that the world around you may try to mock you, that people may laugh, that circumstances may arise to challenge your certainty. But none of that matters. Everything you see is merely a delayed reflection of previous states. What you are assuming now is what will shape the reflection yet to come. So understand this clearly. When you decide to inhabit the state of the fulfilled desire, you have already issued the command. The world has no choice but to obey. It may seem like nothing has changed at first, but just as the farmer knows the earth is alive and working in silence, you too must trust. The invisible is more real than what your eyes see. Your eyes only perceive yesterday's photograph. The state you assume now is the moving picture that will define the next scene. Within an hour, if you sustain your imagination as reality, something will have to respond. It might be a sudden idea, an unexpected call, a swift change of feeling. It doesn't matter how it comes. The reflection has 1,000 forms, but the cause is unique, the assumed state. The only question you need to answer is, what am I deciding to carry within me right now? Because this, and only this, is what the world will bring back to you. The second principle is to abandon appearances. From an early age, you were trained to trust what you see, to take facts as absolute truths, and to treat external circumstances as masters dictating your life. But I tell you, nothing your eyes perceive is definitive. Everything you call reality is just a delayed reflection, an echo of what you sustained within yourself at some previous moment. The debt that today seems suffocating, the illness that seems unshakable, the loneliness that seems eternal. All of this is not the cause, but the effect of states unconsciously assumed. And if they are effects, they can be dissolved the instant you change the inner state that generated them. This is where the courage to ignore the world comes in. It's not about denying the existence of facts, but about refusing to grant them authority. The world presents you with red numbers in a bank account, medical diagnoses, closed doors, and expects you to bow before them as if accepting a final sentence. But the Creator does not kneel before appearances. He looks them in the eye and silently declares, "You are not the truth. You are merely the shadow of what has passed. The truth lies in what I assume now." And by sustaining this stance, the reflection must yield, because it possesses no power of its own. Scripture already stated, "The things that are seen are temporal, but the things that are unseen are eternal." What does this mean? That everything your eyes perceive is subject to disappearing, changing, dissolving like smoke. But the invisible state you assume, the conviction, the intimate feeling of already being, already having, already living, that is eternal because it is the cause. It's like the root of a tree, no one sees it, but the entire form that sprouts on the surface depends on it. Insisting on looking only at the branches is madness. The root is what matters. So too in life. It is not external facts that define what will come, but the secret state you sustain in silence. Abandoning appearances is a trial by fire, because everything within you, conditioned by habit, will scream for you to accept facts as unquestionable. The natural mind will demand proof, will seek logic, will try to measure immediate results. But if you yield to this, you will remain trapped in the infinite circle of cause and effect. Only when you dare to turn your back on appearances and remain faithful to the invisible does the law begin to operate in your favor. It is at this point that many give up, because they cannot bear to appear mad in the eyes of the world. But I tell you, it is precisely when the world calls it madness that you must stand firm, because it is in that stubborn silence that the invisible prepares to become visible. Think of how many men and women have made history because they did not bow to what they saw. They saw an impossibility before their eyes, but carried within them the certainty of something greater, and it was this certainty that, in time, forced reality to bend. They weren't special, they weren't chosen by chance. They simply dared to sustain their inner state when everyone expected them to give up. Therefore, engrave this principle in your mind. Never confuse appearance with truth. What you see has no life of its own, it is merely an echo. True life pulses in the invisible that you sustain now. If you have the courage to abandon appearances and cling only to the desired state, you will discover that even the harshest reality dissolves before your faith. And it is then that the law reveals its glory, by showing that the world was never the master, but always the servant. The third principle is the discipline of feeling. You can repeat words for hours, write affirmations on paper, memorize powerful phrases, but none of it will have an effect if your heart is not in the state. The law does not respond to the empty sound of lips. It responds to the secret vibration of being, and what you feel you create. Feeling is the signature the world recognizes, the invisible password that opens doors or closes paths. Notice how this works in your own life. How many times have you told yourself that everything would work out, but deep down you carried fear and anxiety? And what happened? Life returned precisely the fear and anxiety you harbored, because the feeling was stronger than the word. The opposite is also true. When someone rises with courage, even amidst contrary circumstances, and feels within that they have already won, the world conspires in silence to confirm that victory. Not because they repeated phrases, but because they entered the state. The discipline of feeling requires practice, because the mind is accustomed to being distracted, to wandering between fears and memories of failure. But at every instant, you have a choice. Either you allow yourself to be dragged by the current of doubt, or you decide to anchor yourself in the state of fulfilled desire. And this decision is not made of words alone, but of a firm inner disposition, like someone who puts on a garment and refuses to take it off even if no one sees it. If you desire prosperity, it's not enough to say, "I am prosperous." You must feel the relief of a paid bill, the peace of knowing there is abundance, the joy of being able to give and share without fear. If you desire health, it's not enough to repeat, "I am healed." You must feel vitality flowing through your body, the lightness of movement, the freedom to live without limitations. If you desire love, it's not enough to proclaim, "I am loved." You must feel the warmth of presence, the joy of companionship, the sweetness of affection as if it were already happening now. The world may call this imagination, but it is precisely this that changes the course of life. Because feeling is the bridge between the invisible and the visible. It is the sign that you have already accepted the state as yours, and when you accept, the entire universe begins to reorganize itself to confirm this acceptance. Therefore, discipline is needed. Don't expect this state to maintain itself. It's like tending a flame. If you don't protect it, the wind extinguishes it. So nourish it with inner images, with words that reinforce the feeling, with a firm refusal to return to the old state. At first, it will seem like effort. Later, it will become natural. Because what you feel repeatedly eventually becomes your permanent abode. The secret is here. To feel is to create. The rest is illusion. It doesn't matter what you say. It doesn't matter what you pretend to show the world. What counts is what vibrates silently within you. That is the decree that reality obeys. Therefore, guard your feelings more than you guard your words, because they are what shape the reflection the world will return. The fourth principle is to live as if it already is. This is a stumbling block for many, because it requires courage. The entire world seems to rise up to shout the opposite, but the Lord demands that you walk, speak, think, and breathe, as if what you desire were already your reality. It's not about pretense, nor acting to deceive others. It's about assuming an inner identity so profoundly that the outer world has no choice but to bend before it. Think, someone who is already wealthy doesn't walk through life begging for signs of wealth, nor waiting for another to confirm what they possess. They simply carry an air of assurance, a silence of one who knows. Similarly, someone who is already loved does not desperately seek proof of affection, does not beg for crumbs of attention, because inwardly they already feel complete. When you put on the desired state, even if no one around you perceives it, the reflection begins to organize itself. The world is slow, but it always responds. This is where the world calls it madness. How can this person act as if they have it, when clearly they don't? How can they speak with certainty if circumstances contradict every word? But the Creator is not guided by circumstances. He knows that facts are merely yesterday's photograph, and that life obeys only the present state. Whoever bows before the reflection remains a slave. Whoever sustains the state, even alone, becomes a master. To live as if it already is not to wait. Waiting carries the poison of distance, the weight of not yet. And the law does not respond to not yet. It only responds to it already is. Therefore you cannot say, one day I will have, when it happens I will be happy. These phrases are decrees of absence, and life only returns more absence. But when you silently declare, I already am, I already have, I already exist, even if your eyes don't see it, you have issued a decree of presence, and that invisible presence will soon become visible. It's like someone putting on a new outfit. You don't need to announce with every step, I'm wearing this outfit. Just wear it. In time, everyone around you will see it. It's the same with the state, you just need to inhabit it, and sooner or later the entire world will recognize it. This principle requires persistence, because the world will test you. It will present contradictions, delays, even mockery. It is at this moment that many give up, returning to bow before what they see. But whoever perseveres discovers that the world cannot resist. It is merely a reflection, and the reflection cannot defy the face that produces it. Therefore live now as if it already is. Walk with the demeanor of one who has already conquered. Speak as one who already possesses. Let your silence carry the certainty of what is fulfilled. Don't seek to prove anything to anyone. Don't try to convince the world. Simply inhabit the state with such naturalness that even your daily thoughts are imbued with it. And when you least expect it, the world will begin to bend, because it was never the reflection that commanded. It was always the state you dared to assume. The fifth principle is to remember that you are the forgotten creator of yourself. Since birth, you have been taught that life happens from the outside in, that you are merely a victim of circumstances, of chance, of greater forces you cannot control. But all of this is a convenient lie, an illusion repeated to keep men and women asleep. The truth is that nothing happens to you that was not first assumed in silence. Life does not act against you. It merely responds to the state you sustain. When you understand this, the burden of chance disappears. There is no blind luck, no cruel fate. What exists is the exact reflection of what you dared to carry. If in the past you assumed states of fear, scarcity, or rejection, do not condemn yourself. Everything you experienced was merely the natural echo of those choices. But at every instant, including now, you have the power to assume something new. And this new state, if sustained, will inevitably become your reality. The world tries to convince you that power lies with others, with the boss who pays you, the government that legislates, the doctors who diagnose, the partners who may or may not love you. But all this power is false. The only true authority lies in your inner state. The boss, the government, the doctors, the partners, all are merely characters reflecting what you have already decided about yourself. If inwardly you see yourself as small, the entire world will treat you as small. But if inwardly you dare to see yourself as great, no door will be able to remain closed. This is the point where many hesitate, because to assume oneself as creator is also to assume responsibility. There is no more room to blame others, nor to lament one's fate, nor to beg for pity. It is hard to look at your own life and admit, I was the one who chose this state. But it is also liberating, because if you were the one who created the past, you are also the one who can create the future. And the future begins now, this instant, with the decision of who you choose to be. Do not wait for celestial signs or external confirmations. Do not beg for changes, just remember, you already possess within you the law that governs everything. This law does not fail, makes no distinctions, is not deceived. It responds neither to laments nor to excuses, but only to the state assumed with firmness. Whoever decides, receives. Whoever feels, creates. Whoever assumes, sees. Therefore, awaken. You are not a beggar before life. You are not a puppet of circumstances. You are a creator who has forgotten your inheritance. Everything already is, and everything is already within. The only question is, what do you dare to assume now? Because the answer will come, and it will come in the same measure as that which you decided to inhabit in silence. You have heard the law, not as a theory, not as a mystical tale, but as the truth that underlies everything you have ever experienced. There is no exception, no loophole, no escape. The world is nothing more than the shadow projected by the state you maintain within yourself. As long as you beg for external signs, you will remain a slave to what has passed. But the instant you dare to assume a new state, without asking permission, without waiting for confirmation, the entire universe moves to serve you. Stop begging for changes. Stop complaining about what you see. Decide now, this very moment, to inhabit the state you wish to experience. Walk as if it already is. Speak as if you already have it. Feel as if it is already happening. Ignore appearances, because they are merely the echo of what no longer matters. Sustain the invisible with firmness, and the visible will be forced to bend. It's not about desperate effort, but silent certainty. It is not a shout, it is a decree. It is not a search, it is possession. From today, look within and know, everything already is, and everything is already within you. Wear this reality like a second skin and refuse to abandon it. The world is servant, not master. The reflection is shadow, not cause. Life does not command you, it merely obeys. So, from this moment on, let each one here silently command, I am that which I have decided to be. And so it will be because it cannot be otherwise.